Hey, good morning, guys. What's going on? What's going on? This is this is a real tough day. There's a lot to really unpack here. I've been like a lot of you. I've been following this whole incident with George Floyd, and George Floyd. In case you don't know, this was a brother that was killed recently by Minneapolis police, and as of right now, the death of George Floyd has not been dealt with in an appropriate manner. You know, he was the cop had his foot literally on the brother's neck, which so this was more than a figure of speech, and and the brother ends up dying. And what was really sad about George Floyd's death is that it was one of those things where you know you knew he was going to die. If you, well, first of all, if you were watching the video, you were watching it because he was already dead. But anybody, even those who didn't know he was going to die for sure, couldn't help but feel like something was not right. Like something. This. This whole situation was crazy, and he was definitely murdered. He was murdered in broad daylight. The use of the word murder, in my opinion, in this situation, is not a matter of trying to be dramatic or trying to be political. This really was murder. If you watched, I don't know if I assume most of you have seen some of the video. I think that if you watch it, I have to warn you, you're going to be traumatized because it was so blatant. It was so blatant. The cop, who, by the way, I really am hoping and looking forward to the day when this cop's name and gets revealed to the public. Because I think that he needs to be dealt with. Um, I think that basically this whole situation. I mean, that video was just incredibly difficult to watch. I mean, this was kind of another level up. This was beyond. Don't get me wrong. The other tragedies were terrible. Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, etc., Eric Garner, everything else, and they compared it to Eric Garner. They talked about the similarities with Eric Garner in that both of them let the cops know repeatedly that they could not breathe. But this goes beyond that. This is actually a scenario that, to me, is probably the worst incident since Rodney King. It may actually be worse than Rodney King. For the Philando Castile incident was pretty terrible too. I don't necessarily want to get into the business of trying to compare tragedies, and say one was worse or better than the other, because none of them, well, all of them were terrible. But there was something about this one. There was something about this situation that just took it to another level. In that it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, this cop. I just really, honestly, if you want to know what goes through my mind, I'm just gonna keep it 100, and I hope I can say stuff and not have, and still be loved. But I really would like to just, before I send that cop to the electric chair, I would like to really find out, like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, what was going through your mind? Yeah, I agree with you, Glenn. It was very weird how he just was calmly sitting there. He didn't have his foot in his back. He wasn't just holding him down. He had his knee on the guy's neck. Like, he's breaking his fucking neck, man. I mean, that whole incident was every level of what the fuckery. I mean, you just like, are you on drugs? Are you not hearing the 30 people around you saying you're going to kill him? It was really interesting. It was almost I'm gonna tell you what. I've been talking to a lot of my folks down in Louisville about Breonna Taylor, because I don't know if y'all know, I'm from the Ville. I'm from Louisville, and so I've been real interested in what's been going on with the Breonna Taylor situation, and so it also, just as a point of information. My father was actually on the police force in Louisville for a long time. Thank God he's retired. So it doesn't have to be an issue. Um, you know, But I do call him and I ask him. I say, why is your police force constantly in the news? Like, what the hell? Like, when my dad was on the force, I knew about racism. He told me literally that they did have Klansmen on the force when he signed up. When he joined the force, that they did not have any black officers hardly, and they actually did have KKK members. And to just tell you the mindset of cops, I remember him telling me weird stories, like how there would be a white cop who was a member of the Klan who would actually defend him as a black cop before they would even defend a regular white man on the street. That the blue line, the blue code was that strong. Not to say they wouldn't have killed him if he had snitched or something like that, but police are real funny about supporting other cops. And I guess it's because, out of their fear, they feel that sticking by each other is the way to survive. And I think that mindset is not completely inappropriate in situations where you're dealing with, drug cartels that are trying to kill you or whatever, right? If you're dealing with straight up gangster criminals that just want to kill cops for fun, then I can understand that. The problem is that this militarization of the police, which, by the way, was supported by both Republicans and Democrats. So if you go back and you listen to some of the language of Joe Biden and Donald Trump, both of them, you're not really you think you're getting a choice, but you're really not. If you go back and listen to both of their languages as it pertained to police and police brutality and things like that, both of their languages was very much, let's get more cops on the street. Let's stand by our cops no matter what. Our cops are, our cops deserve our support no matter what. And so this militarization of the police is something that's been going on for a long time. And what it's caused is a situation where people can't support cops anymore. It's almost impossible because they've been trained to believe that they're above the law. Cops have been trained to believe that you can literally go out here and commit murder and not have any sort of consequence for your behavior, other than maybe being put on desk duty or being fired. And so, so you got a real issue here. You got a real problem here, because, the fact that people were able to watch or had to watch, I'm not even gonna say able to, because I didn't enjoy watching that video, watch this man, literally get, like choked to death right in front of them, really is just one of those situations where you're just, I just don't know how this is going to play out. By the way, let me know if you're on Instagram. Some of you say it's pausing. I changed the Wi-Fi just a second ago. Let me know if it's any better. Give me a yes or no if you're able to hear me and see me okay. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Also, please hit the thumbs up button. And also, you're watching drboystv.com. This is the home for intelligent Black people. So we actually like to have intelligent conversations that go above the fold. We don't really like to sit and talk about, we don't talk about the stuff everybody else talks about. We try to get deeper to really understand what's going on. Now let me play this little video I found. Okay, you guys are able to hear me okay on Instagram? Okay, perfect. All right, I changed over to Wi-Fi. Sorry about the pausing earlier. And by the way, if you want to follow my Instagram, it's the real Boyce Watkins. And we try to keep it real over there. Like I'm always sharing whatever's on my mind, and it is what it is. So if it pisses you off, then I'm sorry. I can't apologize for that. Now let me show you this video I found of the brother speaking. I think I forgot where we saw it, but anyway, this is a video of George Floyd speaking, and I really like this guy a lot. This brother was actually conscientious. He seemed to care about the Black community. He reminds me of Sandra Bland in that regard. If you saw, I didn't know until after Sandra Bland was gone that actually she was a follower on my page and would come in and make comments. And I went back and I looked at some of her stuff, and she was a person in her life that really cared about what was happening, in the community. And she cared about what was happening to her people and had an intense love for Black people. So shout out, Ashe to Sandra Bland as well. So let me share this. I'm gonna play this clip so you guys can hear George Floyd speak in his own words. And I just, there's a little profanity. So, you might want to cover the kids' ears if your kids don't want to hear. My kids hear cussing all the motherfucking time. So they're used to it, but maybe that makes me a bad parent. I don't know. But anyway, here's the video. Let me see if I can play this sucker for you real quick. It's on my Twitter. If you want to go check it out, it's on my Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. the number 1. So here we go.
South Lawn lost her son, man. Our young generation is clearly lost, man. Clearly lost, man. Like I don't even know what to say no more, man. Like you youngsters just going around just.
The audio's still not coming out. So sorry guys, I can't get the audio up. So if you want to hear it, just go to my Twitter account. It's Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. I can't make the video play, so sorry about that. Sometimes my computer does stupid stuff like that. So let me check some of your comments, and I'll respond to some of your questions if you have questions or comments about what happened here. So give me a second. Let me see. The people literally watched and the police didn't care. Yeah, that was an interesting thing, you know, to me too, the Duchess, is that the fact that the police didn't care. I think that there was that one cop standing up that was sort of blocking the other cop. And I really believe that he knew that what was going on was messed up. I think he knew, oh, you could hear, it was working. You guys could hear, but since you guys can hear, so Instagram folks, if you can't hear it because for whatever reason the audio on my computer isn't coming through. So if you want to watch the video, you can go to drboycetv.com. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play it again. So give me a second, guys. Let me share my screen again. Y'all gotta forgive me for being technologically stupid sometimes. I try my best, but please be patient with me. God is not through with me yet. All right, so here we go. All right, I'm gonna share it again, because I see y'all in there screaming, saying, boys, it was working. All right, so here we go.
Saw my homegirl Nikki from South Lawn lost her son, man. Our young generation is clearly lost, man. Clearly lost, man. Like I don't even know what to say no more, man. Like you youngsters just going around, just busting guns in crowds, kids getting killed, you know, and it's clearly the generation after us, man, that's so lost, man. You know, man, I came back to Houston and the nigga told me, yeah, Floyd, that young nigga the truth, man, right there, because he could bust a gun. Man, I knew it was crazy. Then a nigga my age saying this here, man, you know what I'm saying? And condoning this shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? And like half them young niggas shooting them guns go home and they knees shaking at night. But they don't show it to nobody because, you know, they ain't tough then. Hey, man, come on home, man. One day it's gonna be you and God. You going up or you going down. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be it. And any nigga don't like this message, especially the nigga my age, man, fuck you right now. My heart hurt. Man, just saw my homegirl Nikki from South Lawn lost her son, man. Our young generation is clearly lost, man.
Okay, all right. So you guys on YouTube, did you guys see the video? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you were able to see and hear the video. Okay. Could hear it just fine. Dude, it works. Please, boys, we can hear. Okay, good. All right. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so the video is over. It was very short. So if you want to see it again, you can go to Twitter. It's, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. That's where I put it up. So you know, what I liked about listening to him speak is that, you know, he just seemed like the type of guy I could relate to. Like I had a lot of respect for the fact that he cared about Black people. He seemed like the type of Black man that wanted to mentor other Black men. And I think that one of the things that I want you to consider, you know, is the fact that we've gotten to this point where people think that they can put their knee in somebody's neck because they were accused of forging a check. You know, forging a check, if that was something that were to happen, sure, you might be breaking the law, but that's not a violent crime. That's not a violent crime. And so, you know, the idea that you're responding to nonviolence with violence right there is a problem. When you're responding to nonviolent behavior with violence, then, you know, that's a real issue. And so, you know, one of the other things I want to mention too, this is one of the things that just crossed my brain in terms of thoughts that I had, is I would love to hear, you know, you got all these politicians that want your vote right now. They expect the Black vote. I'd like to hear what they all have to say. I'd like to hear all their statements and whether or not they are serious statements about transformative work to improve the quality of policing that exists in this country. And the reason I look to the people that are asking for your vote, the reason I look to the Democrats first, because people come back and they say, well, what does Trump have to say? And I'm like, well, Trump ain't really giving a fuck about your vote one way or the other. Trump is not pretending to be a friend to the Black community. You don't go when you're looking for people that are going to have your back. You don't go to your enemies to say, well, if your friend ain't got your back and your friend doesn't help you, somebody ain't gonna say like, well, what did your enemies do? Your enemies didn't help you. Well, you don't expect anything from your enemies. You know, if you consider Trump to be an enemy and not an ally to the Black community, then why would you go to him before you go to Obama? The Obamas who've made, you know, $100 million, $200 million, $300 million from Black people. Why would you go to Trump before you go to Biden, who's asking Black people to vote for him? If we were all voting for Trump at a 70, 80, 90% clip, then I would expect Trump to be the first person to respond. See, that's one of the things I think that we have to understand and learn about politics in America is that you don't go to people who don't owe you shit to ask for something. You go to the people who owe you first. You know, like I don't go, if I work 40 hours a week at a company and they don't pay me, I don't go to a company where I'm not employed and say, where's my motherfucking paycheck, right? Like I don't do that, right? So anybody who steps back and says, well, you know, well, yeah, Obama's might not say nothing, but what does Trump have? Trump ain't doing nothing either. Yeah, well, you know, the Obamas are the ones who, you know, who are living off of your support. The Obamas are the ones that you gave so much to. Last time I checked, most of y'all in here weren't voting for Trump. And it's okay. I'm not telling you that you should or shouldn't. I don't care who you vote for. I'm just saying, get used to asking the politicians you support to be the ones to support you. You don't ask for support from people who that you never gave anything to. That doesn't make any sense. So, it actually maybe it feeds into naivete where we really believe that all these people love us. We really believe that somehow these elected officials are going to represent us equally to the people that they really love the most. We are falsely led to believe that white people can love Black people as much as they love other white people. We're falsely led to believe that a billionaire is going to care about you as much as they care about other billionaires, right? You know, or falsely led to believe that a Republican is going to care about a Democrat as much as he cares about a Republican. That ain't how the world works, you know, and that's why I tell you guys when we do B1 and type your hashtag B1 in the chat to let me know that we're on the same page. The reason we do the B1 chat, which means Black first, Black first, Black first, is because, you know, the world is tribal. The world is a place where people protect and defend their own. People stand up for the people that stand up for them. People come together in clumps. So for example, when I saw that Kamala Harris was out, you know, I think she was pushing for legislation to make it illegal or a crime to use discriminatory language toward the Chinese. I don't know if y'all heard that, where she was trying to make it illegal to say things like Kung flu to talk about the coronavirus or to say the Chinese virus. She was literally trying to make that a crime. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't even care one way about the merits of the legislation. I just happen to be a believer in freedom of speech, so I think that's an issue. I'm not into banning words in general, but I'm sitting there trying to figure out, okay, so you're getting up and you're saying, again, as a person who's supposed to be this great Black candidate, this great Black beacon of light and hope for the Black community, you're out here advocating for the Asian community. And I'm just trying to ask you this question. How many Asian people, how many Chinese people wake up in the morning and say, I wonder how I can save the Black community? You know, I was up all night, baby, because I was just trying to figure out how to help those Black people. My God, those poor people. We need to make sure Black people have jobs. Black people don't have enough jobs and their children aren't being educated. And we just need to dedicate our lives to saving and helping Black people. Seriously, they don't do that for you. Nobody does that for you. You know, John Heinrich Clark always said, Black people have no friends. So why is it that we can even tolerate anybody, any leader, politician, or whomever that will put other people ahead of us? You matter. You matter most. You need the most help. You need the most support. So I will just say at the end of the day, in the Black community, we need all hands on deck. Somebody type that in the chat, all hands on deck. We need all hands on deck when it comes to protecting, supporting, and defending our community. We need all hands on deck when it comes to where we allocate our time. We need all hands on deck when it comes to where we allocate our resources. We need all hands on deck when it comes to where we allocate all of our energy. We need all hands on deck when it comes to where we put our dollar bills. We need all hands on deck when it comes to education, economics, and everything in between, criminal justice, all of that. Black lawyers out here, all you Black lawyers out here, all hands on deck. You know, I know you might be making a big money with the big white law firm that has you doing a bunch of bullshit that doesn't amount to fucking ants asses, but you need to come back to the community and put a significant amount of time into helping to get these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Black people out of prison. And find some time for that. Find some time. We need all hands on deck. And this is not a new idea. This is not a new idea at all. The Chinese have that philosophy in place. And that's why the Chinese have emerged as one of the most dominant economic superpowers in the nation, in the world, because basically they said, look, if you're Chinese and you're out in the Chinese diaspora or whatever, you're Chinese and you're in some other country doing amazing things and making lots of money for you and your family, well, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. If you ain't doing nothing for China, then fuck you. If you ain't helping China, then you don't matter. We're going to measure your worthiness as a Chinese citizen on what you're doing to elevate and strengthen the Chinese country, the country of China. If you're not helping China, then you don't exist. So I think it's okay for Black people to have that same philosophy. The Chinese have that philosophy. The Jewish community has that philosophy. A lot of communities really measure you. They measure your worth on what you're bringing home and whether it's all hands on deck. So I would just say at the end of the day, when you're talking about these sorts of issues, whether it's criminal justice or anything, and because remember this whole situation, this whole idea that a white cop felt comfortable sitting there for 7-8 minutes or however long it was with his knee in the neck of a Black man, he felt comfortable ignoring all the people that were telling him, you're killing this man. Right. The fact that he literally looked right in the camera, looked in all of y'all's eyes. I don't know if y'all saw the picture. You look in this man's eyes. He's literally looking. Those are what you call I don't give a fuck eyes. Those are those like the rapper Tekashi 69. Tekashi 69 had a tour called Test My Gangster. Those are Test My Gangster eyes. Those are the eyes of somebody who's literally saying, I give zero fucks about you. You people have no power. You people have no ability to retaliate. All y'all gonna do is send a couple of these lawyers out to sue the police department. Maybe you'll hold a march and a rally. Maybe you'll hold a Jesus vigil, and where you're praying to a Jesus that looks just like me. And at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck, and I don't have to give a fuck because you don't give a fuck about yourselves. I think that cop was really sort of. I think that you really have to kind of process that a little bit and really sort of think about what message was being communicated by the fact that he literally had no concern whatsoever about what the consequences would be in terms of what he was doing to that man. If that had been a rich white man and he's sitting there with his knee on a rich white man's neck, he would have been very concerned about the consequences. He would have been really deeply, he would be worried about losing his job, about being prosecuted. He'd be worried about all kinds of being blackballed from his profession. But there was no concern in his eyes at all. And so anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you could, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, and subscribe button if you haven't done this yet. I'd love for you guys to follow the channel. Please hit the subscribe button. Now, I have this picture of the cop. I want to pull this picture up. And so give me a second as I pull this picture up, because I think it's worth looking at in the sense that it really kind of speaks to what I was just saying. Like, I need you to look in this man's eyes, and I need you to kind of meditate on what's being communicated here. And this is an interesting picture because this kind of politicizes it, and it's okay to politicize it. However you feel about it is what it is. So let me pull this picture up so you guys can see it real quick. It is a picture of this cop. And if you're on Instagram, I'll just turn my camera so you can see it. So I want you to look at this man's eyes. I don't know this cop's name. I'd love to know his name. I think the whole world would like to know his name. I know some brothers that would really like to know where he lives at. And if they can't get him, they're gonna find out where his family's at. But this is him. Look in his eyes. I mean, just look at his face. I mean, to me, the fact, and he kept that facial, like his facial expression was very calm. He wasn't letting up for any reason. He had no empathy whatsoever in the situation. He simply did not care. Now, the fact that he's wearing Now, this make whites great again. I don't know if that's real or photoshopped or what. If that's the case, then obviously that's an issue. But I think at the end of the day, I think that we have to kind of understand that this is not uncommon, that there are many, many cops, black and white, who see the black community really as kind of a menace, kind of a nuisance, and so actually, let me say something real quick. I want to say thank you, by the way, to who's this? I can't. Stupid thing. I can't click to. I see your donations in there. I can't for some reason click and get your name. So I apologize for those of you who are putting money in the chat and I can't see the name because for whatever reason the clicker's not working. Okay, Javon Brooks. Thank you, Javon, for your support. I appreciate it. And also another thing I want to ask you guys about is this. So give me a yes or no on this. Are you comfortable with the lawyers that always seem to show up on the scene whenever a black person gets shot? You have these lawyers, Benjamin Crump, and there's another one that's rising up, Lee Merritt, that tend to always be around whenever a black person gets shot. They're, usually within 24 to 48 hours, they're holding a press conference, they're filing a lawsuit, whatever the case may be. How do you feel about that? Like, give me a yes or no. If you do you feel good about it or not good? Like how do you? I don't know. Give me a no if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and give me a yes if you think it's all good. Okay, I'm seeing no. Okay, I see Bringing It Black says no. B1 to the world blows no. Flame James no. Okay, no. I see a lot of no's. Okay, hell the fuck no, says Playboy King 1804. Yeah, I did a survey on it, actually. I put a survey up, and a lot of you have an issue with the lawyers. I basically said, how do you feel about these civil rights lawyers that show up on all these cases? Do you feel that they're justice seekers or ambulance chasers? And actually, the majority of you said that they are ambulance chasers. And I'm not going to sit here and give you your opinion on this. I'll just share some thoughts on it. I think that there is a perception that there is kind of an industry, like a civil rights industry, where there are people that I don't care about them necessarily making money. Like, making money is okay. Like, I think we should not vilify people for making money, especially if they're doing something good for the world, even if they're also doing something good for themselves. I think that's okay. But I think the question becomes, what is the long-term purpose of this? Like, what is the social benefit of this? Okay, so you're raising awareness on a police shooting. That's a good thing. You're making the police department pay money for what they did. That's okay. But I think that what's missing for sure is the kind of transformative change that people are looking for that really shows the results of your work. Other than the fact that you just run around stomping on roaches. You're a professional roach stomper, and you're glad that the roaches keep coming out of the closet because it gives you something to stomp. Almost like the way healthcare companies or a lot of pharmaceutical companies are accused of never curing anything. They don't want to cure anything. There's no money in the cure. The money is in managing the illness, right? They're managing the illness. And so I'm not going to sit here and say they don't have a right to make their money and do what they do. I think that's fine. I just think that people probably want to see more of the cure. And this is not even a criticism, because I haven't even processed it enough to know if I would want to criticize their whole existence. But I would compare it to, for example, Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred is also another person that, has done pretty well on women's rights. She does the same thing except for women. Whenever there's a woman involved in a sexism, sort of issue, sexual harassment, whatever, she's right there holding the press conferences, putting the pressure on the other side to make them pay money. And I'm not really 100% sure exactly what the Gloria Allreds are doing for women's rights. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't think that the world sees them necessarily as a positive force in the world, And so I don't know. Again, so let's do this one more time. So let's define these attorneys where you're talking about Crump and Merritt. Those are kind of the two main ones. Are they justice seekers or ambulance chasers? Type it in the chat. Which one do you think? Justice seekers or ambulance chasers? What do you think? What do you think? Let me see. Can you please talk about the issue on my live so my followers can hear you speak? Sure, send me a message. If I got some time, I'll pop in. Justice seekers or ambulance chasers? What do you guys think? Okay, I see Bernadine says justice. Melanie says ambulance. Angie, it's monetary. Wait, is Angie saying it's monetary motivation? Can't slow down the chat. Okay, Crump is a celebrity chaser, says Elise. Ambulance, Sharita says justice. Antoine says both. Okay, both. Okay. I can see that. I think it's okay to say both. You know, and yeah, so I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But here's some final points on the death of George Floyd. Number one, I really like the brother. I think that we lost an asset to the community. I also feel that the greatest concern here is, you know, because again, this was the worst incident, in my opinion, since Rodney King, because we had to watch it. In fact, it's worse than Rodney King because he actually died. Rodney King did not die. And so watching that video is very disturbing. It makes my stomach turn when I think about it. I think that it also reflects a problem with the militarization of police. And so I don't think we should support any politician that wants cops using their weapons more frequently. They're turning their weapons on American citizens who are nonviolent. And I think that's really the issue. You know, there's nothing, this brother didn't have a weapon. He had not committed a violent crime. And so, you know, the idea that this man even felt that it was okay to have his knee on his neck is a real issue. Also, obviously the death penalty, I think, is called for. I think that there was a murder, you know, that was committed here. And so, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see how the politicians respond. Now, what's interesting is that Amy Klobuchar, who they think might be possibly Biden's running mate, who Biden's been vetting her as his running mate, she spoke out on it. I don't think Biden said anything. I haven't heard anything from Biden. Let me know if Biden has said anything about this, because I haven't seen him say anything. But Amy Klobuchar did say something, because she's from Minnesota, and she said the right things. You know, she came and basically said, you know, the whoever's responsible for this should be held accountable, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is that one of the things Klobuchar has been accused of is of being very lenient on cops when she was a prosecutor. If I'm not mistaken, she was a prosecutor at one point, and actually she was accused of not going after cops when they killed Black people. So, you know, I think that that's the challenge that we have as Black people, is that we don't have any friends. And I think one of the things I think that we really should demand as part of that Black agenda is the ability to you know, find some way to at least police our own communities. Like, I think that, you know, or there should be just basic rules that say, if you're going to be a cop in a certain neighborhood, you have to live in that neighborhood or near that neighborhood, so that you'll think twice before you come in and terrorize that neighborhood. You know, because you know, I know in a lot of Black communities, when cops come in and wreak holy hell, and, you know, they punching somebody's grandma in the face and body slamming people and, you know, destroying people's houses, they don't have a consequence, because for them it's like going to Iraq or Afghanistan. You know, they go across the world, do horrible things, and then they get to come back home, right? And so when they go out, you know, into the community, if they lived in that community, they would think twice about what they do in that community. They would have to show respect in that community. And I think that's really important, you know. So anyway, you know, I'll say this. At the end of the day, though, I would encourage you guys, if you really want to understand this on a fundamental level, and figure out how to cure this, how to really sort of move beyond this, go read Powernomics. Go read Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, because he talks about issues like this. He talks about, in Black Labor, White Wealth, actually, and the Black History Reader, he explains how modern policing is really a derivative, a long-term manifestation of, you know, what they used to do with slave catchers, and that cops were put in place to control Black people. And that the reason they have the weapons and all this other stuff, and the reason white folks have far more guns than you do, is because they encourage them to have guns so they could control Black people, and they discourage Black people from having guns. And they put, you know, these civil rights organizations in place on a nonviolent protocol to make sure that you're always completely disarmed, so that there are no consequences for when they come and kill you. And you know, so I think understanding the history of this and knowing that this is kind of a process that's been in existence for a very long time. For example, think about this. I mean, why is it that you never see Black cops doing things like that to white people? Like you'll never see a Black cop doing something like that to a white person. And by the way, you pinned the book. Yeah, you can check out Dr. Anderson's books at powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. So feel free to go check it out. I can't pin it. I don't have my thumbs are too big. If I try to type it on my phone, I'll mess it up. The other piece of that in Powernomics that Dr. Anderson breaks down is he breaks down the pyramid of Black power. And one of the reasons that I think that creating wealth in the community, you know, because I think it's very important for you guys to teach your kids to have businesses so they don't have to go out and beg white people for jobs, to teach them to invest so they can actually have a capital base for the things they want to do. So I think money is always an important part of all of this. Money kind of drives everything. And what he explains is that having an economic base means that you then have the ability to manipulate the politics in your community. And when you can manipulate the politics in your community, which is driven by money, you then have that ability to shape how the police police the community. You can shape policies on policing. You can shape policies on education. You can shape, you can create media outlets, things like that. So what I would say to you at the end of the day is don't allow yourself to just constantly sort of be in the cycle of emotionality. The cycle of emotionality is they killed another Black man. I'm mad. I'm going to tweet about it. And then I'm going to just wait for them to kill another Black person so I can be traumatized again. Like that's what you're doing. You're in this purgatory cycle of emotionality where they kill you, you get mad, and then they kill you again, and then you get mad again. And it's just kind of like compared to a marriage where the husband is just sort of abusing his wife over and over, and all she does is scream and get mad about it, and then he does it again, right? At some point, you have to break that cycle. So breaking cycles isn't just something that you're doing in your own family. Breaking cycles is also something you have to do in this world. Like you got to break the cycle. Like if every day you come to school, the bully beats your ass and takes your lunch money every day, and you just get up, brush yourself off, wipe your tears away and clean up the blood and keep going and just wait for the next day for the bully to meet you in front of the school again and take your lunch money. At some point, you got to break that motherfucking cycle. My mother told me that. She said every day she would go to school, there'd be a little girl that just, maybe she was being abused at home or whatever. She said, I never understood why, but this little girl, every day she would look at me and say, I'm gonna beat you up after school. She said, I'm gonna beat you up after school. So every day my mother would be, she'd be scared to death. Like she'd be running home and, getting beat up and everything else. And so one day she said, fuck this. She said, I'm tired of this. Like we're about to break this cycle. So you know what she did? She said, I waited behind the door for this little girl to come out. And she had one of those big old school metal lunch boxes. Remember those metal lunch boxes? Anybody old enough to remember metal lunch boxes, how heavy they were, right? This is like 1950s. So it was like a big heavy lunch box. And that little girl came out and my mother cocked back and bam, slammed that, hit that girl. And I would say hit that bitch in her face. Because she's beating up on my mama. So of course, this offended me too. So she beat her ass with that lunch box. I mean, this little girl was laying on the ground, bloody, like beat half to death, like stunned that my mother actually stood up for herself. And she said after that, the girl never bullied her again. In fact, to this day, my mother's in her 60s. She said, I've seen that lady in the grocery store several times. She still won't talk to me. So what I'm saying is you got to figure out at what point and how and in what way as Black people, you're gonna break the fucking cycle. And usually breaking the cycle requires you to do something dramatic, something different, something that is retaliatorily traumatic, if that's even a term, right? Like you've traumatized me 18 times. I'm gonna traumatize your ass once because we're gonna break this cycle right now. And that's one of the reasons why when we talk, I'm always telling you guys that I don't know all the solutions to everything that ails Black people. Nobody does. It's very difficult. You're talking about a 400-year problem. But one thing I know for sure is that you will never solve a 400-year problem by doing the same thing you've been doing up until this point. Like, one thing we know for sure is that everything you've been doing is wrong. Seriously, everything from sending your children to white people to educate them, that's wrong. That's why your kids are fucking stupid. Working for white people your whole life, that's wrong. That's why a lot of y'all are broke and mad and pissed off because you get mistreated at work. Going deep in debt to go to a white man's university to get a job that is only going to require you to work till you're 70 to pay off the debt, right? That's not working. That's killing your wealth, right? Letting police officers murder you time after time after time, and then not having any sort of adequate response other than a prayer vigil and a couple of lawyers that show up and get paid. I don't even care that they're showing up and getting paid. I'm just saying, I think the whole community needs to find a way to make this work for everybody, right? Like what are you doing to break the cycle, right? So I don't know the answers to all these questions, but what I will say is that when you see those solutions come along, you have to just ask yourself a basic question. How is this different from what we did the last 18 times a Black man got shot by the cops, right? Like what is it? Say for example, Malik Zulu Shabazz. I like Malik. I like Malik a lot. Malik laid out some pretty empowering ideas about forming militias and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, let me read further. That's different. That's unique. That's radical, right? Do you have to agree? No, you don't have to agree, but at least he's trying something different, right? Or Dr. Claude Anderson, when you read through Powernomics and he breaks down, sort of why these issues exist and how to end them and how to address them, maybe you should listen to that. Maybe there's a reason why Powernomics isn't taught in schools. Even your HBCUs don't teach Powernomics. Well, because a lot of your Black folks that lead you, a lot of the Black folks that claim to be your allies and your friends, unfortunately, they have been empowered to lead you because they are less likely to lead you to do something that is going to be truly transformative and radical. Most of your civil rights organizations have, for example, this undying commitment to nonviolence, which is kind of stupid because, you're dealing with a motherfucking savage. You're dealing with motherfuckers who think it's okay to sit there and put their knee on your son's neck for 7 minutes straight, despite the fact that he's repeatedly saying he can't breathe and his nose is bleeding. Like you're dealing with a situation where whatever tools you have at your disposal to solve this problem, those tools are highly inadequate. So radical solutions are called for on every front. I'm talking about radical solutions on criminal justice, radical solutions on economics, radical solutions on education, radical solutions on everything that matters to you. Because if you're not radical, then you ain't Black. Joe Biden said, if you ain't a Democrat, then you ain't Black, or you don't vote for him, then you ain't Black. Well, I'm gonna do my own little twist on it. If you ain't thinking radical, then to me, you ain't thinking Black. That's my 2 cents. That's just my opinion. Throw it out the window if you want to. But if you're sort of doing what's been done repeatedly that does not work, then why do it? Why not just go ahead and fold and give up? Because you're only going to keep getting the same thing that you've been getting. Okay. So just sort of process this. I know that it's emotional. I know that there's a lot to sort of, I don't encourage you to keep watching the video over and over. That's not going to be good for your mental health. If you saw it once, good. If you haven't seen it, I don't even know if you have to see it. I mean, it was so difficult to watch. It turned my stomach. It made me sick. But it did help me empathize in terms of what their brother's going through. And what was also really problematic about watching the video was the fact that he was completely dehumanized. This man, I saw another picture of him in a suit, being proud, just being a proud Black man, speaking his mind. He had a mind. He had thoughts. He had perspectives on the Black community, and he shared this. I put it on my Instagram. If you want to go, feel free to check it out. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. the number one at the end. You know, and to see this man who was, you know, who had pride, who had dignity, to see him reduced to a guy that looked like he was shirtless on the ground with his face underneath the tire of a cop car with some white man's knee in his neck, where he's breathing, he's crying, he's begging, you know, like that hurt me to the core. Like that made me really, really sad as a black man, because I think that for a lot of us, like you could feel yourself like right there in his shoes, like you felt yourself right there in his position, and that to me is just the part that probably hits me the hardest. You know, I just, you know, I just don't get it. And so I'm just gonna say this: I can't wait for the internet to find out where he lives and who this man is. You know, I think that him and his relatives are going to need some witness protection. I think that we are approaching the day where Black people are just not going to let this happen at all. Like we're getting there. Like every time this happens, people get a little bit closer and closer to the brink. Like I just don't think that you're going to be able to do this 10 years from now and expect to be able to keep on breathing. Like I really think that that you're sort of on the cusp of what I'm seeing as some radical change, and so yeah, so that's what I'm seeing. You know, you know, my heart goes out to the family, man, and I hope that they prosecute this guy accordingly. If they don't, Minneapolis is going to have people from all over the world that are going to be coming to their city and dealing with their police force, and it's going to get real. It's going to get real. So anyway, I'm going to go, guys. Those are my thoughts. I hope that these thoughts were helpful. You know, if they weren't, then you should watch another channel. So anyway, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Everybody hit the thumbs up button before you go. Also, you guys know I'm big on investing, and I want you guys to become investors. So we put together something you can do that's totally free. It's the Black Stock Market Challenge. So I want to challenge everybody to become stock market investors. The challenge starts June 1st. If you want to go register, feel free to go to theblackstockmarketchallenge.com. That's theblackstockmarketchallenge.com. So God bless you guys, and thanks for listening. And I enjoyed talking to you. And RIP George Floyd. You know, brother, my heart goes out to you, man. I'm very sorry that this had to happen to you. So take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.